the story of the rivers, the four rivers that flow in different directions. And today we can kind of see where that is. That's up in the area where Gunnison Valley, or Gunnison, Colorado, and the headwaters of the Gunnison River, which is what they call it today. But the Gunnison River flows west, and eventually it flows into the Colorado.
Okay, go.
The traditional teachings of our Diné, in the teachings and that, there are always special places and that are mentioned and that we need to be aware of as Diné. When the very first Diné came into the mountain area, the very first place that they, of course, came into was over Mount Blanca, and which is in southern Colorado. And there's also the White Sand area, where it was that Seikai, Hahokai. And then beyond that, they call that Hakai Hutkel, which means the wide open space of the plains. Halkai Hutkel. But the mountain area, when they arrived in the mountain area, they found out that when the rains came, some of the rainwater ran to the east, some of it ran to the west, some of it ran to the north, some of it ran to the south. And so it is in one of our traditional stories, we have the story of the rivers, the four rivers that flow in different directions. Totzazle is what they call it. And today we can kind of see where that is. That's up in the area where Gunnison Valley, or Gunnison, Colorado, and the headwaters of the Gunnison River, which is what they call it today. But the Gunnison River flows west, and eventually it flows into the Colorado River. And so that first area where these two rivers flow together, it was called Totha, which means right by or between the two rivers. But as the Colorado River flows south, actually it's more southwest, it passes a set of mountains, which is mentioned in some of the very early trotting coyote stories. Ma'ijol Lusha is the stories, but they mention the 5 mountains cluster. Zithashla is what they call it. And some of the ceremonial songs even mention those mountains. And it is very important because it also, as I mentioned, it is told of in the trotting coyote stories. So that area right there was very important. But the name Totha, today they use that same name to refer to Farmington, New Mexico, because of the San Juan River and the Animas River flowing together, and that is known as Totha. So Farmington picks up that name. But just west of Farmington, we have the community of Shiprock. The name Shiprock actually is the rock formation that most people are familiar with in the area that has the name Shiprock. But among our people, they refer to it as Tabata, which means the wing that is of rock, or it looks like a wing that is sticking up out of the ground, the wing of an eagle. And Tabata is what they call that. And so that has a name, and there is a lot of stories in that, in the trotting coyote stories, that make reference to that rock formation. But also as we come south, or coming west, following the San Juan River as it flows through near the Four Corners area and then comes west, we have the the Bear's Ears over there in Utah, and it flows between the rock formations of the mesas that are referred to as the Bear's Ears, which is just west of what is now the Navajo Mountains, and then as it continues to flow, it again flows into the Colorado River at a place down in the area where those two rivers come together, and they have marinas there since Lake Powell has backed up. But there's a mountain to the north of that is called, today they call it the Henry Mountains. But that was not named until about 1921 or 20 in the 1920s. For the longest time, the National Geographic Survey couldn't think of a name. But it's also very interesting that in the Nehbazat, in the language of our people, that Henry Mountain is referred to as Zbizhiten. It means it has no name. And because it has no name, because they didn't find anything of any great value on that particular mountain. And so it was always referred to as Zbizhiten. But to the south of the area that I'm referring to, the Bear's Ears and that, is a place called Monument Valley. In our language, we call it Biintaskai. And it translates to mean inside of it there are white areas of white. Biintaskai. Biintaskai is sometimes the way they refer to it. But that's Monument Valley itself, and it has all those different rock formations that are in many movies, especially during the John Wayne and John Ford movie making career. Just south of that, about 15 miles, is another rock formation that they refer to as El Capitan. And El Capitan is a jet of dark lava type rock, volcanic rock. And it was a place that whenever game was taken, like deer, antelope, buffalo, and elk, and any of these large animals, that when they processed the hide and tanned the hide, they would remove the hair from the skin. And that hair was not just thrown away, and you don't burn it or dispose of it in any way, but you take it back to a place where you can offer it up by using the Capitan corn pollen and thank the holy people for that animal, and that you're using every part of it and even the skin. But the hair that you cannot use, you are returning it to the holy people. And so that was a place that they took that hair or fur of the animal after they had removed it from the skin, and they would put it up there, and that was the place where they is called El Capitan. But in our language, it's called Agatan. Agatan means that it is the place of many different fur and hair, because they had been using that site to make to return those fur back to the holy people and giving them a gratitude offering. Agatan. And then there is the Grand Canyon, and the Grand Canyon is called Batahaz, and that means that from the bottom there is a trail that goes all the way to the top and to the upper surface. Batah is the edge of the canyon. Haz means that there is a trail that goes back above it. And those are the areas in that are of special interest to the Neh, because there is a lot of stories in that talk about the rivers where it comes together. The little Colorado, further up when it flows from Continental Divide, it's the Rio Puerco, but it flows down through to the Colorado River, the confluence there. But there are natural salt available in those areas, and our people used to use salt as a trade item, and so that salt is down there in the bottom, in that area, the confluence of the Little Colorado and the mighty Colorado down just before it begins its flowing down through the Grand Canyon. And so there's a lot of traditional teachings in that associated with the collecting of salt down in that area. And the story of the Diné, there are many places that are considered of very special interest. Chinle, which is called Chinle today, and sometimes they call it Seye, which means within the sand. And there are lots of our people in that lived and farmed that area in past history. And so those are the things that we are told.